Joining us now from his home in Indiana, the former Vice President Mike Pence. And, sir, nice to see you again, and thank you for your time. Martha and I were just remarking here.
Thank you both.
Yeah, his address is more powerful on replay than it appeared when we were listening to it in real time live. Nonetheless, let's get your reaction to what you heard last hour.
Well, I think the world's been inspired by President Zelenskyy. When I met him 2 years ago, we actually spent time together in Poland. We spoke after that, and I saw at that time his strength, his poise, but what the world has seen is a man standing courageously in the gap for his people. And I think the words that he expressed today to the United States of America can be summarized in simply a message that the people of Ukraine are suffering and we need to do more. And I believe that we will do more. I believe that it's important that we heed his call for additional sanctions, that we economically isolate Putin. I mean, there's one person to blame for this invasion. It's Vladimir Putin, and Putin must pay for the violence that he is visiting upon the people of Ukraine. I think it's time that we transferred the MiGs, that we gave them the anti-aircraft systems. And I also believe, Bill and Martha, I believe the time has come for a 21st century Berlin Airlift. When I was on the border of Ukraine just last week, I heard over and over again the practical needs the people are facing: food, water, medicine. And I think it's time for the free world to step up and work together to make sure that the people of Ukraine have the wherewithal to defend themselves and also to take care of themselves and their families amidst this violence. They've shown incredible courage. You saw President Zelenskyy demonstrate that courage in words today as well. But I think the time has come for us to do more, to give them more of the ability to defend themselves and to give them the support that they need in this hour of need.
Vice President Pence, great to have you with us this morning.
Thanks,
with
Mark.
regard to this fear of setting off World War III, this is obviously very prominent in the mind of President Biden as he is the leader of the free world at this point. How would you navigate that? How would you put in place allowing the MiGs from Poland, for example, creating, as you say, which sounds like a great idea, a Berlin Airlift, because we can't stand what we're seeing happen in Mariupol and these places that are completely cut off in 2022. But how do you see that in terms of navigating it and not tripping that World War III wire?
Well, first I would do it the way that we did it in the Trump-Pence administration, which was we armed Ukraine. We gave them the ability, lethal weapons, to be able to defend themselves. You'll remember for 8 years under the Obama-Biden administration, they basically sent them blankets and boxed meals. And when the Biden administration took over, they once again stopped providing lethal support. I'm glad that they reinitiated that, but we've got to double down. What President Zelenskyy is demonstrating personally, what the people of Ukraine, the war fighters in Ukraine are demonstrating is, given the tools, they're able to defend themselves and take the fight to Russia. We're 3 weeks into this thing, and I frankly believe that Vladimir Putin thought this was going to go like Afghanistan went, with Ghani getting on a plane, flying away, the government collapsing, the military collapsing. But because of Zelenskyy's leadership, because of the courage of his armed forces, there's a different story 3 weeks later. So I think you provide them with more arms. As you heard my old National Security Advisor, General Kellogg, say a little bit ago, you provide them with anti-aircraft systems so they can shoot down those planes. You give them the MiGs that gets them farther into the fight. But the people of Ukraine simply need the wherewithal to be able to defend themselves. But I will also tell you, I think that this idea of a 21st century Berlin Airlift is an idea whose time has come. I was at the border, just inside the border of Ukraine. Karen and I were with Samaritan's Purse, a Christian relief organization. We spoke to the women and children flooding across the border, now some 3 million. And the reality of the heartbreak of what's happening there today, I think demands that we do more. But I think that begins with giving Ukraine the ability to defend themselves, providing humanitarian aid at an unprecedented and a historic level within Ukraine and to refugees in the region. And lastly, to continue to further isolate Putin. I was struck by President Zelensky's call that every politician in Russia ought to face individual sanctions. We're the largest, most powerful economy in the world. We can continue to isolate the Russian economy. The Biden administration was slow on the draw with sanctions. They were slow to sanction oil. They've stepped that up. But I think we need to bring the hammer down. I mean, Putin must stop or Putin must pay. And I can tell you, having stood toe-to-toe with him and looked him right in the eye, Vladimir Putin only understands strength. And we need to meet this moment with American strength all across the board.
Sir, you've said a lot there. We're going to hear from the president next hour, and apparently there's more additional military aid that he will announce. There's some reports suggesting more anti-tank drones will enter the theater there in Ukraine. We'll wait on that news for next hour. However, you address the airlift, you address the MiGs. What about the no-fly zone? To you, does that sound possible?
Well, I think what Leader McCarthy just said a moment ago was striking. He said in all of his conversations with President Zelenskyy that he's never asked for military forces from the United States. He simply asked for the ability to defend themselves. And that's where I think the anti-aircraft missile systems, transferring the MiGs, giving them resources. You know, the problem with the United States participating in a no-fly zone is the problem of escalation, of putting U.S. forces in direct confrontation with Russian forces. I think the more prudent course, the wiser course here in the long term, as we count the cost of all of our involvement here, is to simply give the brave and courageous people of Ukraine the tools to be able to defend themselves. They've demonstrated incredible courage in the last 3 weeks, Bill, and I believe with given the right tools, they can turn back this Russian invasion. Now, I will also tell you that what I also heard on the border, and I heard this from relief workers, was the critical importance of food and medicine and water being brought in. That's why I'm proposing a 21st century Berlin Airlift. We've got to make sure that the people that are staying have the basic sustenance of life to be able to hold out against this Russian invasion. You give these courageous Ukrainian people the ability to defend themselves. You give them the wherewithal to stand strong. And I really believe with all of my heart, as you saw in the determination in President Zelensky's eyes and in his voice, that they can turn back this Russian invasion and secure freedom for their people for generations to come.
Do you think that President Biden has given Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, an opportunity to control the narrative here? Because he has said, well, if you send in those Polish planes and they have Ukraine pilots, we're going to see that as an act of war. How would you turn around the dynamic with that relationship right now if you were president?
Well, let me tell you that I hold the view that you should never say what you'll never do. And from very early on, Martha, you'll recall President Biden made it clear that we'd never take any action in this theater, that it would only be economic. And I think you've got to keep bullying dictators like Vladimir Putin guessing. And the fact is that weakness arouses evil. And look, Vladimir Putin is to blame for the violence that's taking place in the Russian invasion today. No one else is to blame. But I have no doubt in my mind that the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the capitulation to Putin, whether it be on Nord Stream 2 early in this administration, re-entering the intermediate nuclear treaty that we had gotten out of because Russia was breaking it left and right. All these actions, I think unquestionably embolden Vladimir Putin. That's why I say Putin only understands strength, and we need to meet this moment
so you think
by bringing American strength to the equation.
Just last question here, last point. Do you think the commander-in-chief has been slow?
Honestly, and I said it on your air 3 weeks ago, that we needed to lean all the way in, sanction every financial institution in Russia. We needed to sanction Russian oil, which is the lifeblood of their economy. The Biden administration was slow on the uptake on those things. But look, there'll be plenty of time after this is all over to look back and to debate and to take lessons learned. I think right now we need to come together as a country. We need to understand the role that America should play. We need to isolate Russia economically at every single day, tightening the economic noose on Putin's regime. We need to be providing the Ukrainian military with the ability to defend themselves. Get those MiGs out of Poland, get them to Ukraine, get them the anti-aircraft systems, and start this 21st century Berlin Airlift. Start bringing hundreds of tons of basic supplies to the Ukrainian people. President Zelenskyy showed that courage, that resilience. The people of Ukraine are showing it every day. We stand with them in this fight, and I believe it'll ultimately be a victory for freedom.
We will see if they pursue the ideas you've expressed today, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
Former Vice President Mike Pence, thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.